Hello, hello. Now, I really want us to keep the energy high for our next speaker. We have an extraordinary woman joining the stage. I'm a bit biased. She's a really great friend of mine. So they are going to be talking about the fact that funding is scarce for women-led startups, a very important topic today. We're going to learn about the challenges and the strategies for securing investment, explore the barriers that women entrepreneurs face, and gain insights into navigating a funding maze with the incredible Hattie Willis, founder of Guessworks. Please welcome to the stage, Hattie.
Hello, I'm Hattie Willis, and as my name suggests, I wear a few hats. So, first hat is I'm the co-founder of a company called If We Raise, and we're on a mission to help underrepresented founders feel less overwhelmed and less alone in the process of either trying to fundraise or bootstrapping their companies. I'm also the founder of a company called Guessworks. We go into schools, universities, corporates and accelerators and teach practical innovation skills. And I'm the host of a podcast called Not My First Guess. Through these different roles, I have helped hundreds of founders fundraise, but I'm equally proud that I've also helped hundreds of founders realize they shouldn't fundraise at all. Now, you may be thinking, and I hear it a few times, Hattie, it sounds like your ADHD is coming through quite strongly and you're doing a lot of things. But I promise you, there is a common thread across what I'm doing. A mission to make entrepreneurship more equitable. Raise your hands if you agree with this quote, that talent is equally distributed, but opportunity is not. Good, I'm going to weed out anyone who hasn't got their hand up. Go away now. I'm joking. Hands up again if you agree with me that it is exponentially harder to fundraise as a female founder. Okay, good sense check. I don't need to try and convince you that this is difficult. Because it is really tempting when we come together like this to spend some time in collective fury. Like about the fact that 87% of funding went to all-male teams according to Atomico's 2023 State of European Tech report. Or the fact that in the UK, 10 times more money goes to male-founded VC funds than female-founded VC funds, and 5 times more funding than to mixed gender-owned funds. Or the fact, this one really grinds my gears, that women's health tech companies are less likely to get funding if there's a woman on the founding team. Make it make sense. And this is without getting into any of the stats around intersectionality, like how much harder it is to raise as a female founder of color, or as a founder who lives outside of an investment capital like London, comes from a lower socioeconomic background, or has a disability. Okay, we can assume I'm mad. But in today's talk, I want to focus on the practical steps that you as a founder can take that might change your odds. Because if you're a female founder fundraising, let's face it, enough of your time and energy is already being wasted. Now, the first question I want to ask may seem confusing, given I'm talking about raising capital. But I want us to sit with the question of should you raise before we dive into how to raise. Now, that is not because I want you to tamper your ambition just because statistically it's harder. The only way these numbers change is if more women get funded. And so if funding is the right path for you, I will do everything in my power to make it happen for you. But equally, if we're pushing against a system that is broken, and that pushing is going to take huge burn on your company's ability to stay alive, on your personal mental health, and also on your personal financial health, then I don't want to make you play a game which is already rigged. So I really believe we need to ask this question first. And so to do this, one of the things that's helpful is to understand how venture capital actually works. Now, this takes more than my allotted time, but I did a talk on it last year at Web Summit. So if you want to get that talk, it runs through in 10 minutes how venture capital funds work, and therefore how to tell if you are venture backable. I'll be sharing that talk on social media in the coming days, so give me a follow on LinkedIn, Hattie Willis, or at NotMyFirstGuess on Instagram for those coming in. But a key summary of the talk. If your company does not have the potential to become $1 billion valued company minimum in the next 10 years, 12 if you're in deep tech, you're probably not venture backable. And by the way, this has become like a dirty term, like not venture backable as an insult. No, let's put this in perspective. 0.00006% of companies can be billion-dollar companies. But what I would argue is you can have massive impact well before that billion-dollar valuation. Now, there is other kinds of capital available in equity investment in the form of angel investment. This is people putting in their own money, and I'm going to talk about them in a minute. But I just want us to get out of this mindset that fundamentally the best validation of our business is investors. That is a huge myth, and as a founder, not getting investment makes you no less of a founder, okay? And the other thing I just want to touch on is the fact that often founders rush to funding early. I need this to build something. I need this to get sales. Early on is the most expensive time to sell shares in your company. It's when there are still the most risks. So often it serves us more to get more proof points and drive our valuations higher before we go and get funding. Now, there are some companies, before I see medtech hands in the air, there are some sectors where this is harder to do, where you're going to need an injection of capital in order to get to those milestones that increase your valuation. But luckily, the sectors where it's harder to get to those milestones, typically there's a higher number of grants as well. So do look to those before you look to investment. And if you don't believe me that bootstrapping without raising can still be an incredibly powerful way to grow a huge company, I thought I'd give you 3 examples that hopefully change your mind. Firstly, female-founded Spanx started with a few thousand of Sarah Blakely's personal savings, and she grew it to a $1.2 billion valuation. Similarly, many of us in the room probably use companies like MailChimp. MailChimp was started alongside a design agency. And so the founders were able to bootstrap by keeping that agency revenue coming in while they grew the software business to the point where they got to a $10 billion valuation. And Shopify, we all know, got to millions of revenue before they took VC. So I just want to challenge us about when we try and raise as much as if we try and raise as well. Because what I want to see is more female founders successfully growing companies and exiting them and then reinvesting in the ecosystem. And to do that, you need a personal exit that is big and exciting. And the confusing thing is sometimes it's easier to get a big personal exit by owning a bigger percentage of a smaller pie than it is to own a smaller percentage of a bigger pie where you've grown it to this huge valuation, but you have other investors on board. And those investors, by the way, might have things like liquidation preferences, which mean they take money off the table first when you sell, and you might be left with crumbs. So really want to challenge this. But if you do want to fundraise, I also want to help you increase your odds. Now, spoiler alert, I have not waited until Web Summit and held on to the secret for how we can break all those stats earlier and get women funded immediately. And I'm sorry if you were hoping for that. I am not that great. But what I do want to do is share some of the practical tips I have seen trip up founders time and time again when it comes to fundraising. And while these aren't necessarily female founder-specific errors, as female founders, we get a lot fewer chances to mess this up. So we need to make sure we're not falling into any of these traps, even more than our male counterparts, sadly. So tip number 1, don't just perfect the pitch deck. Is the business actually exciting? And how have you proven that already? All too often, I see founders who are spending months polishing their slides and trying to tell the best story possible, but they could spend that same amount of time going and getting data points that tell a much more exciting story. Like data points that point to customer demands, maybe pre-sales, a big wait list, virality of that wait list that shows us that people want this so much they're willing to put their reputations on the line. So while your pitch deck, yes, has to be brilliant, you have to tell a story with it, you have to answer the core questions an investor will want to hear, also think about what you could be doing behind the scenes to improve that story. Tip 2, do not spray and pray when it comes to investor outreach. All too often, and particularly for founders who are getting lots of no's, I hear, well, I have to just reach out to hundreds of investors then to get my yes. And while you will have to take more than average meetings as a female founder, just going out with generic cold emails to a higher volume is not going to increase your chances of getting a conversation, let alone a yes to your investment ask. So be really specific on who you're targeting and tell them when you reach out why specifically them. Why do you think they're going to be interested based on what they love to talk about and do? And why do you want them, aka the value that you know they can deliver? Get them excited about being part of this journey. It's so cool. And another way to do this is to look for angel syndicates. And angel syndicates are groups of angel investors, angels being individual investors, remember, who invest collectively. So this can be a great way to meet more angels at once. If you want to find angel syndicates, I suggest searching on a few things. 1, if you're a female founder, search female founders, angel syndicates. 2, search by your geography. So for example, in the UK, we have different regions. Search by your region, search by your stage, search by your industry as well. And then there are tools like shipshape.vc, which allows you to search for investors who are talking about your topic. Tip 3, approach advisors around earlier. Lots of bootstrapping founders forget they can get some of the same connections, support as they want from investors from advisors. So go and talk to them 3 to 6 months before you want to raise. Hopefully they will then connect you into investors, but also they might give you what you need to get those proof points to really impress the investors. Just a top tip, make sure you vest their shares so they earn them over time or against milestones. Tip 4, beware of an all-female cap table. Harvard Business Review did a devastating piece of research which looked at 2,000 US-backed VC companies. Female founders who in the first round exclusively took from all-female VC partners were twice less likely to raise their round versus those with male VC investors. And you will all be amazed to hear the inverse was not true if you were a male founder. But anyway, that aside, one thing to be really aware of is it feels like it's easier to go and raise from female investors, and that might be true. But if we lean on that in the first round, we might be messing ourselves up for future rounds. Look for male allies. Lots of them are in these angel syndicates, which is really helpful. Tip 5, don't undersell yourself or your team. We've probably all heard this stat around jobs, right? Women need 100% confidence to apply for a job that they can do everything in the job description. Men, 60%, and they'll learn the rest as they go, which, by the way, is about right. So as women, what we tend to do is really undersell ourselves on the team page. And especially for early ventures, this is really critical to avoid doing. Tip 6, do your own due diligence on investors. Speak to founders in their portfolio who have failed, as well as those who succeeded, and ask them, what did the investor give that they said they'd give? Did they deliver? And how did they cope when things went wrong? Were they a stress? Were they a value add? Now, I want to be really explicit. While I want to give practical tips to female founders, it's not all on you. We need some system change. But while you are here, I have 3 asks of you. Ask number 1, if you do fundraise, please don't pull up the ladder behind you. Make introductions to the investors that you rated to other female founders. Take more of those coffees female founders who are raising are asking for. And I'm not asking you to derail your whole week with these, but please do think about how you can pay it forward. Ask 2, can you help us bring more angel investors into the ecosystem? Just 15% of angels in Europe and 14% in the UK are women. We need more investors in this space. So if you know friends or colleagues or family who could add value as well as money, help them into this space. And top tip, Open Angel is a brilliant platform with free education to do just this. Ask 3, if you exit yourself, please, for everything in me, invest in female founders. Pay it back and pay it forward. Now, 15 minutes, sadly, doesn't give me very much time to fix the system. We've barely scratched the sides. So I've prepared a couple of resources that I really hope will help you dive deeper into this from 2 different angles. Firstly, on my podcast, we've interviewed over 50 founders, and we've created a fundraising-specific playlist which has advice from male and female founders who've raised, but also, crucially, from investors, both angels and VCs. If you listen to just one episode, if you are thinking of raising venture capital, it is the episode called Behind the Venture Capital Curtain with Zoe Pedden. Zoe is an exited founder herself who became a general partner at the VC who backed her. So she loves VC, right? But she is also one of the people I know who is most honest about who it is and isn't right for, and that not being a bad thing. So listen to her episode. She explains the model beautifully. Secondly, with my company, If We Raise, we've created a funding strategy course that will help guide you through working out whether investment is the right path, whether you should bootstrap, and how to factor in founder funding fit, i.e. what's the right path for you, not just business funding fit, i.e. what kind of funding does your business need to succeed, because we have to start thinking about both. So I co-created this course with my co-founder Tim, who is an exited founder and now an angel investor himself. He's also an exceptional ally. He's part of the Hemesa Angel Group in the UK, which backs female founders. And I want to see more Tims in the world. So if anyone here could be a Tim, please be a Tim. We also run growth groups. So if you're feeling like you're alone in the process, you're overwhelmed, these are groups of 6 founders plus a coach who's been there, done it, understands it, so that you're not just blind following the blind, which we can sometimes be as founders, but you can talk to people who are at your stage and relate. We run these. We'd love to see you in these growth groups. I'm so sorry that as well as building exceptional businesses, you are having to fight a broken system. But I want to thank you all who are, whether that's by bootstrapping to exits and paying it back into the system, or by fundraising and changing those stats. Thank you, because while it's easy to be a bit pessimistic given the landscape I talked about earlier, I really believe the system is changing. With incredible initiatives like groups like Female Founders Rise sat here who've brought incredible women together to support them, with angel groups like C Ventures, Hemesa, Alma Angels, I really think we're going to see a change. I'm sorry you have to be at the front end of it, but thank you everyone, and thank you for listening.